Now I wanna talk about defense. And the first thing that comes to my mind is basically knowing what you're fighting. When you fight Hunter's Venom, for example, you know your burst window is smaller. When you fight a Templar who's top link charge spamming you, you need to have some kind of LOS around you, or more LOS to stop that top link charge spam. When you fight Major Defile, you know you have to be more mobile and use more of your shadow image, because you cannot heal up. The most important tip I can give you for defense is to, when you always cast a defensive ability, Vigor, for example, Shade, stuff like that, you always need to roll cancel that. That is what I always do. You mitigate so much damage from it. So always roll your defensive spells, it's number one tip. Another thing that has to do with dodge roll, what I'm doing is I always have a timer in my head telling me when the enemy is able to attack and when not. Because this game is global cooldown based, so say I do one attack and then I have to wait, do another one, right? You have to take advantage of those windows. Say you got attacked as you came out of roll, that means he cannot attack you for the next about 900 milliseconds, or a little bit less, like 400, 300, something like that. You need to have a specific timer in your head telling you when to roll, when it's safe to roll and when not, because when this guy just attacked you, that means he cannot attack you again right away, right? That means it is better to just start sprinting a little bit and then roll as he's able to attack again. And when you run away and there's, say, only one melee guy on you that's in range to attack you, you can very well take advantage of that and just roll whenever you know that he can attack you. And that's the kind of timer I have in my head, and it's always ticking. I always know when somebody is able to attack me and when to not. Because in the time window that he cannot attack, you can very well use a skill beforehand instead of rolling. Another thing that many people don't know about, and I think I learned it only from PvE, is that you can cancel the animation delay that your bar swapping causes, and that's by simply light attacking. So for example, when I cast a skill on my front bar swap, there's a small delay, right? Now, if I cast a skill, light attack, I can instantly cast the skill on my back bar. And that's basically it. It just makes you scale up quicker. Now, let's talk about more defense stuff. I prioritize mobility over healing. So for example, when you need to get from a bad situation and you're snared, that's when I would rather use my shuffle over my vigor, assuming I'm above 50% HP. I use shuffle maybe every 6 to 8 seconds. That's how much I spam shuffle, because I love staying mobile, and I feel like if people cannot catch up to you, they can't hit you. That's the best way of mitigating damage. Just stay mobile. When you're under 50% HP, it's better to use your rally instead of your vigor. So for example, say I got bursted and my vigor isn't running, and what do? You first swap to front bar, use rally, and then use vigor. You can use rally every 2 to 3 seconds, and while vigor is running, you can use your rally every 2 to 3 seconds, and the heal will still be very relevant and very good. You want to keep up vigor 100% of the time when you're kiting, or when you're under pressure. When vigor is running, you prioritize rally. You also want to vigor up before going into a fight. That way you can mitigate more damage and your burst window gets bigger. I usually also use shuffle before I go back into a fight, just so I can stay mobile. Now let's talk about rolling. I think everybody knows roll cancelling. and without roll cancelling the rolling would be useless. So let's skip that. One thing I want to talk about rolling is, if you see the enemy, if you can still watch him and you're not running away, please, for the love of God, roll smartly. Know when to roll. Roll Haunting Curse sticks, roll Subterraneans, roll Clenches, roll Flame Lashes, stuff like that. When you can look at the enemy and know what he's doing, then only roll when you need to. Save your stamina for the chaotic roll spamming for when you're actually in trouble. You always need to break free as quickly as possible. After every break free, you roll once or twice. And use either Vigor or Shuffle. Now let's talk about Cloak. You always need to distance yourself before cloaking or else you get revealed. I usually dodge roll about 1 or 2 times while casting skills, always in between every roll dodge, and then cloak. Sprinting for just a split of a second after a roll, just before cloaking, is great. That way you can distance yourself from the enemy even further before attempting to cloak. And that is because after rolling, you always have that little delay before you can cast your skill, right? So instead of waiting through that delay, you can simply start sprinting and then cloak. That distances you from your enemy even further. Now, as I said, Cloak is not a defense mitigation ability, it's more of a juke ability. If you can drop all the pressure that you had on yourself with one cloak, that's when the cloak did a good job. And how do you achieve it? By juking your enemies. The best way to juke your enemy is to instantly swap directions when you cloak. So say I run to the right side, cloak, and instantly switch to the left. Vice versa. It will look something like this. And I have a great clip to showcase that as well. That will probably be running while I'm doing this. Also, another very important thing to know about Cloak, is that the first half second that you enter Cloak is when you're invincible to any ticks, any damage ticks. That means you can very well just roll inside your enemy, even if it's a stem sork, and avoid any damage that will be thrown at you. So what I usually do when I just run away from my enemy, especially in a duel, is roll, cloak, and get inside of them. Something like that. Or, what I also do sometimes is, instead of rolling away from them, instead I roll inside them, cloak, and go the other direction. That confuses the absolute shit out of my enemy. Now, I do the same thing for when I run away and turn around. So say somebody is chasing you and they pressure you down, you cloak, and they will never expect you coming back. That's one of the best, most used things I do. Just turn around while they don't expect you to. You don't want to use Cloak more than once in 4 to 5 seconds. Stop Cloak spamming, it's useless. When you get revealed, it's better to start roll dodge spamming. When you're under pressure and you can't sustain stamina, then it's better to Cloak just to get rid of the roll fatigue and then start rolling again. Now let's talk about sustain. And your sustain is probably shit because you don't have heavy attack enough. if you cannot sustain a build, that's only because you don't heavy attack. You have your bow and back bar not only for major expedition when you're rolling, but also so you can sustain with heavy attack from afar. So what you do when you don't want to engage on an enemy, but your cloak is about to run out, is charge up a bow heavy attack on anyone, and that way you'll get 3000 stamina back. Another way to heavy attack for sustain is on the 2H bar when you're charging up a heavy attack. And when you're charging up a heavy attack, you can look the other way, start running away, and you will still get the sustain. That's what I do all the time, by the way. I go back to the teams, I charge up a heavy attack, and run the other way. That's it. When you have nothing to do on your back bar, and all your relevant skills are up, just spam leeching. It gives you stem sustain whenever you cast it. I cast leeching every time I'm done escaping, every time I'm about to engage, always when I'm choosing my target and proccing my light attack, just like this. And always when I get out from a fight. If you're under 20% stamina, you need to chill out. You either stay in cloak and heavy attack from far with leeching spam, or when you know you can still pull it off, you run up to your enemy, heavy attack, and escape for the stem sustain. Or just shade away and bow heavy attack them. Oh, and if you play with Torque of Tunnel constancy, then make sure your magicka is also under 50% when you're low on stamina. Now let's talk about Shadow Image. I don't expect anyone really to use Shade well, but keep in mind that if you learn Shade, the game is gonna be so much more enjoyable and the class is gonna be so much better for you to play. You can really pull off some insane stuff on it. Best way of abusing Shade is on height difference. Say on a rock or a tower. I use Shade in open field as well. Just place your Shade, run away from it, trade back. That will confuse the fuck out of people. That's called reverse shading.